It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here's your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Welcome in on a Monday morning where John Gruden is out, the Bo Sox are in, the Grizz looked really impressive as a team again, be it against the Detroit Pistons, who don't look very good. But when the Grizzlies play their starters, they are absolutely amazing. Tigers get ready for what amounts to, if you're going to make a bowl and keep that string alive, even for 8 wins, which is an outside thing now, but you have a must-win opportunity, and I think it is must-win against Navy on Thursday night. And then I mentioned that yesterday would be the day of dread, maybe, because the IARP was going to release something. We didn't know what it would be. If you don't know what the IARP is, it is the Independent Accountability Resolution Process. So here's what we learned yesterday from the IARP. And they're the ones investigating basically the James Wiseman situation and what kind of penalty that the University of Memphis would get. We learned this yesterday. We learned that the investigation was completed by February the 19th. And remember, the IARP was getting a lot of pressure from the NCAA itself about what they've been doing because it's been 2 years since they formed. They got several cases. Memphis was the first. Kansas is in there. LSU is in there. Those were the FBI probe cases. There's several. None of the cases have been decided. And the NCAA was saying, we want more information. We want transparency. And so they released some information, and this was what they gave yesterday. The investigation on the Wiseman case and the University of Memphis was completed. And this is just the investigation part. On November the 19th, a notice of allegations was sent to the University of Memphis. On April the 19th, it was then amended on July the 9th. So we're talking 3 months ago, they amended whatever they sent in April. We also know the Memphis side of it all asked for 4 extensions since the amended version came out. That's the amended notice of allegations on the 9th. 4 extensions since then. 2 were asked by Penny, and he asked for those extensions before he got Duran and Bates to commit. So you got to feel like he feels pretty good about at least this season. Or otherwise, you would think he would not have brought Duran and Bates into a situation where they wouldn't get the best of exposure. Then we learned on August the 27th, Memphis submitted a request for reconsideration of the chief panel members' response regarding compliance with the operating process, which is basically the Wiseman allegation. So this particular panel person, who's the chief panelist, either 2 things occurred. I'm guessing when I say this, but either 2 things occurred. One, they did not like what the chief panel had to say and had some logical argument against it. Or 2, maybe there was some sort of conflict of interest that particular panelist had with the University of Memphis. So we know they asked for that. Then finally, and the thing that worries me the most, or maybe it should be the most hopeful thing, because maybe this thing won't get decided this season. There's no timeline on any distribution of penalties, if there are any. There's no timeline on when there will be resolution to this case. So basically, we know about as much today as we knew yesterday. So much for this big thing about transparency. Maybe it just buys them time to figure out exactly what they want to do. Maybe there is not an official appellate process, but if you have asked for the request for reconsideration Maybe that throws something into the mix. Maybe Memphis doesn't think there will be any resolution until after this basketball season. That part I don't know. I did contact the U of M, and they very nicely and politely said, Dave, we really can't talk about this because this is still an ongoing process. So we cannot comment until there is some sort of finality, I'm guessing. So we know the rehash of this. I guess we know now that they did get this letter of allegation in April and it was amended in July. I'm not sure we knew all of that. We didn't know about certainly the request of extensions. We know that now. We did not know about this request for reconsideration. So we did learn a few things, but we certainly are no closer to knowing anything about any kind of resolution on this issue or how severe these penalties might be, because they did play Wiseman. But we don't know. So we're in the same position we were yesterday in terms of, could there be any disruption of this season? Could there be a postseason ban? Could there be a loss of scholarships? Could there be a suspension of Penny for a certain amount of games? We don't know any more today than we knew yesterday. But I think the most frustrating thing is we don't know when we'll know. So sit back and wait. So that's the biggest local story. There's no doubt about that. The biggest national story is the John Gruden story. And I would tell you, and I think most people would tell you, this is a stunning revelation. I mentioned yesterday at the close of the show after we had T.J. Reeves on. Keep in mind, T.J. Reeves is the Buccaneers sideline guy and has been for 15 years. He did, as he mentioned himself yesterday, he did John Gruden's radio show and TV show in Tampa when Gruden was the head coach of the Bucs and they won a Super Bowl under his watch. T.J. Reeves, if I recall yesterday, basically said, I never saw any kind of racist tendencies or anything like that in John Gruden. He treated me incredibly well. And all of us who watched John Gruden on ESPN, Monday Night Football, never saw any hint of any kind of racist, homophobic, sexist behavior at all. Now he's on TV. He's going to be watching his everything he says. He's going to monitor himself, basically. He's not going to let any of those cards show if indeed that is what is in his heart. So we were all, I guess, basically fooled. Even the guy close up like T.J. Reeves, who said, didn't see anything. Mike Tirico, who worked with him as the lead announcer and John being his analyst for years on Monday Night Football, came to his defense a couple of days ago, said, no way with John Gruden. And then the bombshell. It wasn't just the DeMario Smith Michelin tire reference to his lips, which I bought. I bought it completely. I bought that he used to say for anybody who was a liar, he called them rubber lips. And so the Michelin thing was basically he's a big liar, is what he was talking about with DeMario Smith. I bought it. But when you get other allegations of racist behavior, of homophobic behavior, of using the Q word about a player who was brave enough to come out and openly say, this is who I am, the first guy to come out in the NFL, to take shots at the commissioner, which everybody takes shots. So I think that's a little piling on. But he did take shots in a very disrespectful way. The NFL, which is trying to clean up its act, which is trying to rebrand itself as a socially conscious league, just like the NBA, and they're all doing this. This is our time. Had to let him go. There's no question. He had to let him go. And you know that when Mark Davis, Al Davis's son, who now runs the Raiders, Al Davis loved John Gruden, you know, deep in his heart, he didn't want to do it, but he had to. There was no way around this. John Gruden had to go. And so he is out. And John Gruden basically that story stole the show of one of the great comebacks of all time on a Monday Night Football, because Lamar Jackson had 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and ran for over 50. No other quarterback has ever done that. I don't believe there's been a comeback when you were down 16 points in the fourth quarter. I don't believe they were down 19 at one time, and the game appeared to be completely over. Lamar Jackson appeared to be the most frustrated guy early in the second half. When he fumbled the football at the goal line, it was returned for what would have been a scoop and score. So it ended up because of a lateral going back to the 20, but they drove down and scored anyway. And yet they overcame all of that and won a game, and that was a game that the Colts needed because they were 1-3. Now they're 1-4, and that puts the Baltimore Ravens in heady company because they are now 4-1. That was an amazing turnaround game. And that story, unfortunately, got sidetracked by John Gruden. But it's a huge story. And Lamar Jackson, who was disrespected for his arm strength at the beginning of the season, now becomes a story as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And we got a bunch of really good quarterbacks. Look what Justin Herbert did this year. I mean, amazing. And we're going to talk about that with Jeff Moore here in a little bit. Mike DeCourcy will end our show coming your way at around 10:40 or so. In the meantime, we do have a lot of things to talk about, including the inane things that players and coaches say. Jay Morgan puts this thing together every week. Give us a little background on what we're going to hear.
So we had some good stuff this week. It was, it's always a tough thing to cut it down. I had to cut a lot of good sounds out, but we had some good coaches this week. Last week, you mentioned, and I didn't even realize this when I was making it, I had a lot of losers on the list last week. So this week, I made a conscious effort to really watch the winning press conferences and get a good gauge of what the winners were saying this week as well.
So you got Tomlin here, Jameis Winston, Ron Rivera, Dan Campbell, Brian Flores, David Culley, Jacoby Brissett. You got a bunch of people.
Matt Nagy.
Matt Nagy. Oh, boy. I didn't even see that name here, yeah. Well, he had a big win, and you got to wonder now, seriously. Don't you think John Gruden had to know that this was the beginning of the end for him? How distracted was he? How distracted were the Raiders? I don't want to take anything away from my Bears winning, but I must tell you, I wonder about the attention to detail, the level of focus the Raiders had knowing their head coach was on the way out. And you first of all, on every football team, I think we have to understand this. Every basketball team, every baseball team, there are guys at the end of the bench that used to be contributors or whatever that don't like the coach. They think they got the raw end of the deal. So there's always those guys just waiting for that opening for them to sort of poison the water because they're unhappy. It happens all the time. And you wonder if that was a part of what was going on in Vegas, because here they are. Really, they won their first 3 games, and all of a sudden all this stuff started to happen, and you got to wonder about the focus and about – there were plenty of people in that locker room that were not commenting on Sunday after that game about what they were thinking about their coach. So this was a team that was disjointed maybe for the last couple of weeks, and we'll see what happens with the Raiders the rest of the way. In the meantime, and we love this, sit back for about the next minute and 40 and listen in to the most inane things that coaches and players will say.
Man, I just like the way we came out of the locker room and just continued to fight and compliment one another.
Our offensive line, they gonna block till the cows come home.
What happened on that Hail Mary?
They caught it. That's the truth of the matter. We had enough guys around them. One of their guys got it and caught it.
Once again, we shoot ourselves in the foot, and it hurt us. It hurt us.
But I think they made some plays, and we didn't.
Well, I think they made the plays and we didn't in the end.
But we got to find a way to bounce back and move forward. Go watch the film and find the things that we did good, do those more. The things that we didn't do good, do those less.
When you see your players give all that they have and you lose that way, it's tough. You don't want that for them.
I can only coach one team at a time. I'm focused on the Titans.
And basically individuals that do those things, it's got to quit doing those things.
I always think this is an offense. When you're down 3 as an offense, it feels different when you're down 1.
We talked about last night in the team meeting. We talked about it all week long. This is going to be a fist fight in the back alley.
It's very easy to stand at the driving range and hit 300-yard drives. It's can you do it when you're on the tee box and there's water to your left and sand to your right.
I'm so happy about our playmakers. I said, look at who we got, playmakers. Playmakers are going to make plays.
The guy goes after the football. It's what this is not by accident or coincidence. He goes after the football.
This game's played by human beings.
Hey, you guys played incredible. You won this game for us. We start again, and we start again, and we start again, and we start again.
That's the truth of the matter. Is if you don't work hard, things don't change, and we work hard, but we make mistakes too. So we're learning, we're growing, and we're just going to keep plugging away, fellas.
The most interesting comment to me there was Dan Campbell. That is the very odd coach, in my opinion, of the Detroit Lions, and he was the one that was crying. And we sometimes think, these are big, huge dudes, and these coaches are crusty, and they've been around forever, and they've worked their way up the ladder. And we forget they do have emotions. I was taken aback by the Dan Campbell crying. That's I'm sure why you included that thing, Jay Morgan?
I had to. I felt like it was like the story of press conferences this week, and it was shown everywhere. And while it's funny, and he says he bites people's kneecaps and talks about how much coffee he drinks, he's a funny guy. You said he's an interesting guy, but that's awesome too. I mean, he's crying because he just wants his team to win. I'm sure some of it is he wants to win himself. It's his first time being a head coach, but he cares a lot about his players, and I just thought it was nice to see. I had to include that in there.
I'm glad you did it. It shows the humanity of the game. No matter what, these guys are invested, whether they're good at what they do or not. They work their tails off, which the word work is probably used in every one of these cuts. They do work their tails off, and the bottom line is every week somebody wins and somebody loses. It was amazing to me. I forget where it was, but somebody basically said, oh, here it is. It was Robert Saleh who said, it's easy to stand at the driving range, right, and hit 300-yard drives. It's can you do it when you're on the tee box? There's water to your left, sand on the right. And I couldn't help but think of that freshman kicker for Memphis, David Kemp, because I watched David Kemp in warm-ups at Tulsa, and there was a big wind. It was a part of the story, I think, for the special teams, which were dismal for Memphis in that game. And, it does work both ways, and Tulsa was able to overcome that. But David Kemp hadn't kicked a game in a college uniform in his life, and he'd been hurt all year. And, he got introduced basically to the team on Tuesday, and Memphis lost 10 points in special teams, and they lost the game by 6. So, you can go right to that and think about it. But the kid the ball's exploding off of his foot in practice. I watched him into the wind kick a 42-yarder where he missed his first one. I watched with the wind. I think he kicked 155 or so in warm-ups, and the form is great. Everything is great. And then when the lights come on and the pressure is on you, it is a different story.
It's almost like I was thinking about this the other day, just as a comparison. Take yourself to the 50-yard line. You have to say 3 sentences, 4 sentences in front of a crowd of 70,000 people. It's something as easy as that. You could see how the nerves might come up when you're doing something as big as kicking a game-winning field goal.
Well, and they do make it look simple. Have you ever seen these contests that they have where they put the ball down at the 10-yard line, so you're kicking a 20-yard field goal? Seriously, it's like like the old extra points.
Right.
Yeah, it used to be it's still in college that way. And nobody can make them. I mean, I did watch some frat kid make it in Tulsa for homecoming the other day. But for the most part, or you go try it. Go out to your neighborhood field that's got, goalpost, and try to kick even a 15-yard field goal, less than an extra point. It's hard. It's really, if you don't have technique, it's really, really hard. And then you add the pressure, as you just said, and it gets crazy. Before we take our break and we bring Jeff Moore in, I gotta tell you, I'm really impressed with the Grizzlies. Now they're 3-1, and they're perfect. By the way, the only game they lost, they didn't play their starters in that game at all. Everybody rested. And the competition hasn't been exactly the greatest. I mean, Charlotte is okay. Detroit's okay. So I don't know that we're really getting exactly the stiffest tests thus far. But last night, just look at some team things. 15 threes were made. Well, you'll take 15 threes on an average every time. 54 rebounds. And Jaren Jackson had 8 of them. Jaren, I do think, is going to be an improved rebounder. That was one of the things we were looking at this year. Could he play defense without fouling? Could he rebound? Can he develop a mid-range game? We know he can shoot outside. We know he can drive. But how about pulling up 6-8 feet away and have an easy shot? Can you have that in your repertoire? And I know now that he absolutely can rebound because he's rebounding much better. I think he's worked on that. And I think he is bigger. So I think he's gained a little bit of weight. Yeah, 26 assists on 45 field goals made. That is really good. You know, obviously you'd love it to be 2/3. I'm sure that's the goal that they write on the chalkboard. But if you get more than half, I think you're doing fantastic. And, team defense, they first of all, they score 70 points in a half. That's at least the second time in the preseason they have done that, and they're up 30 because they are playing really good defense. Triple J and Morant, both in the 26 guys in double figures. I think that is pretty darn spectacular and good on the Grizzlies. A good start. And this is all without Dylan Brooks, who everybody has penciled in as a starter. We're sitting in the Family Leisure studio. I'm reminding everybody, you love to relax at home when the weather gets a little colder, right? Now they got a sale for all the things that make relaxing at home even better, like pool or shuffleboard, or how about if you've been out playing golf and your back's a little tight, they got these massage chairs. Or you can get into the spa, the sauna, because they've got those things on sale. Maybe you want to chill out and watch a movie or the big game in style with one of those beautiful theater seats. They've got it all on sale right now at Family Leisure. I-40 and Whidden Road, where family and fun all come together. And we remind everybody our title sponsor for this hour of the program are the great folks at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. This is the place where you can go get the best luxury car for the dollar anywhere. I promise you. And the people will take care of you at Craft Road, the very first exit off Highway 78, Lamar, in Mississippi. Just easy to get there, and they take care of you with a team that's been together for about 15 years. Starts with sales, into finance, then to maintenance. They take care of you. Every new car, Hyundai or Genesis, gets a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, and every car gets a 3-year, 36,000-mile maintenance package on the house. That's what I'm talking about. They've got the product, and they take care of you with a team that knows how. You just can't beat it. That's how they've raised the bar. They have set the standard for the way car business should be done at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. Let us pause for just a minute. When we come back, we'll put Week 5 in the NFL to bed with our friend, the former Ram and the former Tennessee Volunteer. Jeff Moore comes your way in just a second.
You have opinions?
The knowledge that I have matters.
We want to hear them. Call or text us on the AutoZone listener line at 360-8255. That's the AutoZone listener line at 901-360-8255.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
I'm Brian Elder, 867-0303. Hurricane season is upon us. Is your roof ready? Are your shingles laying down and sealed properly? Call me right now, 867-0303. They say you get what you pay for. That's why my opinion is free. Maybe you've got years of life left in your roof. If so, I'll tell you that. But if I find storm damage or a compromised roof system, I'll lay out some options for you. Don't let them tell you it needs to be replaced if it only needs a repair. Call me, 867-0303. Has your insurance company already seen it and rejected your claim? Maybe they're correct. Most of the time, they're not. They do tend to become more reasonable once I get involved, though. 867-0303. I'll measure your roof from outer space or BrianElderRoofing.com.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-386-9945. 800-386-9945. 800-386-9945.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
I want to do some bragging rights. Hey, I was just the other day overhearing a conversation with Big Mike, the manager of DeSoto Auto Sales. They've got people buying cars all over the country. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas. People from all over the country buy cars at DeSoto Auto Sales in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Why? DeSoto Auto Sales has the most stringent car inspection in America. They get it right the first time. Quality and low mileage, factory warranty on most vehicles. My favorite part is the people who work there. Big Mike, all the employees are professional, friendly, and go that extra mile. Expect as you walk in the door, you're treated like family. DeSoto Auto Sales understands your time matters. We can help you find your dream car and get all the paperwork finished in less than an hour. Come see us at DeSoto Auto Sales and be part of our family. Have a great buying experience every time. 662-890-7184.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Welcome back in. This portion of our show brought to you by a great guy who ensures everybody cares about folks. That's Matt Eflin and his team at Eflin Insurance. You want great value and not sacrifice great service? You think Eflin Insurance and his team, they got access to all these leading companies to find the right home or auto program that not only fits your needs, but fits your budget. So we know you have to have insurance. We know there are specific things you need to have. He finds the right ones for you. I promise. Need commercial insurance. Hey, they have virtually unlimited access to programs that protect small and mid-sized businesses. That is what their specialty is. And don't forget life insurance. Eflin's got you covered there with quotes from about 15 well-respected companies. You never wonder if you've gotten a good deal. You're going to get a great deal. And all you got to do is call 901-386-4777. Matt is a big Tiger fan. That is, by the way, Gurr. 901-386-GURR. You'll get a quote today from the Eflin Insurance team. So the stories this week were, one, I think, the Bills' dominance over the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we got a new power in the AFC. And then the comeback last night by Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. But it sort of got undercut by the news about John Gruden. Jeff Moore, former Ram, former Vol, joins us now as he does. We always put Week 5 to bed with Jeff Moore on Tuesday mornings. Jeff, were you stunned like I was about the John Gruden story?
Shocked, as everyone was. And it's amazing to me that we've reached a place in society where that level of punishment can be administered for behavior that took place in the past, and to see how the hammer dropped when those revelations came to light. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, when you see John Gruden on the screen, and he just had a great reputation on him in Monday Night Football as well, right, as being a coach. So it is shocking, but it's fascinating to see the level of punishment, even with that type of behavior that took place a while back.
Do you think the league is achieving a better place when it comes to dealing with all types of people, with minorities, with African Americans in particular, because they're the majority of the athletes? They are trying to be more socially conscious with the way they allow stuff written on backs of helmets and things of that nature. Do you see, and if folks don't know, Jeff is African American. Do you see progress?
I do, and I think it's a great question, but there's no question that the league is trying to send a different message, that behavior like that is just no longer to be tolerated, and I think society is trying to move forward in that direction too, because that type of the divided type of behavior is just not something that's good for our society, and I think people have realized that, and we're just better when we work together and try to understand each other better, I think.
I'm with you. All right, let's get to the games.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Do we have a new giant in the AFC? Is Josh Allen in Buffalo the best team in that division?
I think so, and I think just for a number of reasons. One, Josh Allen command of that offense is unbelievable. I mean, the way he is such relaxed in the pocket and steps up, knows when to run, the way they use him in the run. He's so effective, and he's using multiple weapons. And then their defense is playing so well. I think their defense is kind of going under the radar. They've had 2 shutouts this year. And so as a team, they're more balanced. Baltimore just has to rely on Lamar to be a Superman every week. And fortunately for them, he has been one. But I don't know how long that could last going into a 17-game season.
Just to show you how dominating the Bills are, and don't forget they lost the game, right? First game, they've won 4 in a row. Their point differential, and I'm just looking at the AFC numbers, their point differential, that means you've scored more than you've given up. Their point differential is plus 108. In the AFC, there are 2 teams that are tied for second. That is the LA Chargers and the Denver Broncos, and they're plus 26. That's the kind of dominance that the Bills are displaying.
It is. And again, I think it's because they're just a very dominant team. Their special teams are solid, their defense is solid, their offense is outstanding. And I think that's the reason they're dominating in the AFC the way they are. We're still waiting for a team to emerge as a dominant team, and we're still surprised by Arizona, and everybody's waiting for Arizona to lose. But they're keeping it going every week, even if they have to fight to the fourth quarter. I'm just admiring the type of fight and belief that team has in each other and the way that they're just playing through for 4 quarters.
If I were a 72 Dolphin, I would feel pretty good right now because I don't believe that the Arizona Cardinals are going to run the table. But are you more surprised at the only undefeated team, 5-0? Are you surprised at their story or the Kansas City Chiefs, now 2-3? And when you look at their point differential, even though they're putting up 163 points, their differential is -9 because they don't play defense.
They don't play defense. I'm a little surprised at Kansas City, but I think, what happens a lot in our league is that, after teams have a chance to study you and come up with defenses to kind of counter what you do. And I think what they've discovered is if they make Patrick Mahomes and that offense have to work methodically down the field, they've got their best chance to beat them. And a lot of times they're not patient the way they need to be, and they're just used to quick strike. But you've got to play an almost perfect game to beat them. But fortunately, the teams that have beat them so far has just played that right defensively and made them have to work. And then, of course, as you said, their defense isn't stopping anybody.
Well, their defense is giving up 34 points a game, okay? They're scoring about 32 points a game, so it's pretty close. But I'm guessing even in this era of quick strike, big play offenses, I don't think you can be successful in the NFL if you're going to give up 34 points a game.
I don't think so either. I mean, you do have to have, much better defense than that. Because, there's no question teams are being very creative offensively and scoring a lot of points. But you need to be able at some point to be able to give your defense a rest, because that's really the key, is being able to have a sustained drive so your defense can kind of be better prepared to stop the other team.
We're in an era of some really great quarterbacking. I don't think there's any question about that. You already mentioned Mahomes, and we mentioned Superman, because he really added to his legacy last night. Lamar Jackson, with that performance, that comeback, he had 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 50 rushing. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody's ever come back on a Monday night down 16 in the fourth quarter either. So he did some great things. Josh Allen, we just talked about how great he is, but getting lost in all of this is a second-year man in Justin Herbert, who now has the Chargers at 4-1. How good are the L.A. Chargers, Jeff Moore?
I think they're very good. His command of that offense has just been really astounding. And you watch the way he plays. I mean, he's really decisive with the football. He goes to his first, second, and sometimes third read. He does not play like a second-year player. He's just outstanding. Now, ironically, the 2 last quarterbacks you mentioned play this weekend, and that certainly is a game I'm looking forward to when the Chargers play the Ravens. That'll be an outstanding football game, I think. But no question, for them to go into Kansas City and win the way they did, that Chargers team is playing with a lot of confidence right now.
Who do you think will win that game then? If that is the game, and I love it, the Ravens are at home and they're 3.5-point favorites. They get one less day of rest. How do you break that game down?
Man, it is so tough, because I think there's no question there's an extra element of Lamar when he's at home. I think the Chargers have a good chance of winning the game because, again, I think they play balance-wise. I think they just play a little bit better defense than the Ravens are playing at this time, and I think that can make the difference. So I like the Chargers, but in a really, really close game. And I think, the turnovers is going to be a big key, and unfortunately, Baltimore has turned the ball over a lot so far this year.
One last game. It's next Monday night, right before we talk to you next week. That is those Bills traveling to Nashville to take on the Titans that win the games they're pretty much supposed to win for the most part. I'm not sure they can beat a team like Buffalo.
I'm not sure they can beat Buffalo either. I like Buffalo in that game, again, because I think their defense will come up with a way to make the Tennessee have to put the ball in the air, and a lot depends on if they're able to get Julio Jones and A.J. Brown back too. I'm not sure if they'll be playing, but it should be a really good game. But I do like Buffalo in that game only because they just play a good brand of defense and offense.
Jeff, have a great week. Looks like, and we'll talk about this next week. It looks like Josh Heupel has turned your Volunteers around. Now they got Ole Miss this week. That could be a high-scoring game.
That'll be exciting.
It'll be a great game. We'll talk about it next week. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
You too. That's our friend Jeff Moore on the National Football League. He's brought to you by Old Dominick. You want something cool to do? Go check out the distillery. They got tastings and tours. It's right in the heart of downtown, so if you're doing a little downtown thing, maybe you're going to go to the Civil Rights Museum and you want to add something to it, this distillery tour is right up your alley. You might want to do it after the Civil Rights Museum because there's a tasting in here where it's a cool tour. You're going to learn a little bit about their founder, Domenico Canali. Then you get a close-up view of how they do all of the distilling. And then it ends with a curated tasting of the Old Dominick portfolio of spirits. Also, if you're looking for something to do late at night, they got a bar. Go to olddominick.com. You can find the bar hours, no reservations necessary. It's just a cool gem that we got right on Front Street, Old Dominick. And you can ask any of your favorite spirit shops where you can find their product because they're in there too. It's a Memphis staple. It's Old Dominick. The Hall of Famer, Mike DeCourcy on college basketball. He comes your way in just a minute.
Hey, this is Eli Savoy. Greg Gaston and I have moved. Instead of Sports 56 middays, we are now Sports 56 mornings. That's right. Join us every morning from 7 to 10 right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hi, everybody. This is Greg Gaston for FanDuel. Hockey season is in full swing, and there's no better place to bet on the NHL than FanDuel Sportsbook. NHL parlays are the perfect way to make every shot feel like a hat trick. You can turn a little bet into a big payday. And all season long, FanDuel is giving every customer NHL parlay insurance. You'll get up to $25 back each day if your parlay falls one leg short. Don't have a FanDuel account? Sign up now using promo code GASMAN to place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. FanDuel is always hooking you up with great odds and exclusive offers. Plus, when you win, you'll get paid in as little as 24 hours. This season, make every moment more and bet on the NHL with FanDuel Sportsbook. And remember to use promo code GASMAN so they know I sent you. NHL 2021, all rights reserved. You must be 21 or over and present in Tennessee. Parlay Insurance max refund $25 per day. Risk-free bet for first online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days for Parlay Insurance and 14 days for risk-free bet. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Napa know-how.
At Napa, we've teamed up with AAA to save you 20% online or in store. That's why they call us the Savings Dream Team. Okay, we're the only ones calling us that. But it's true. Your AAA membership can save you 20% at Napa. So we're basically superheroes with the most specific power ever, saving you 20%. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
20% off regular retail prices with valid AAA membership card. Offer good online and participating stores. Offer ends 10/31/21.
Maureen saved big shopping epic daily deals at Amazon. So now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. And with her brand new tableware, everyone's welcome at Maureen's table. All of her family, friends, even her neighbor with the pet. Hey, has anyone seen a ferret around here? Found it. Dig into Amazon's epic daily deals. Spend less, smile more.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Our friend, the Hall of Famer Mike DeCourcy, joins us here in just a minute. I'll let you know this portion of the show brought to you by Conway. Conway services heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and the tankless water heater. It's time for you to get into 2021 technology where you never run out of hot water. And since these things only heat the water you use, you save money on your gas bill every month. At Conway, they're making it the perfect time right now to get rid of the old energy-guzzling technology, that tank, by this deal. John says, I'll give you 12 months to pay interest-free, or I'll even give you $250 for your old tank water heater. It's the perfect time, and you never have to worry about that tank bursting in your attic, because guess what? There is no tank. All you got to do is make the call. 384-3511, 384-3511. Conway Services. So we've got a little bit of college basketball fever because tomorrow night we got Memphis Madness. We'll see what Penny's got up his sleeve. We'll see all these new guys, Duran and Bates and Camden and Minot and all these guys. We're all excited about that. But my first question for Mike DeCourcy, who left Memphis to go to Cincinnati. He was the beat writer for the Bearcats. The AP writers, in their wisdom, have made the Bearcats number 3. If Cincinnati wins out, Mike DeCourcy, will they be the first and probably only ever group of 5 to make the college football playoff? I can see a lot of different ways it wouldn't make it, but do you think it could happen?
Oh, anything could happen, Dave. I mean, I could become a New York Times best-selling author or something like that, or star on Broadway. I mean, I suppose, right? Anything could happen. But
now, wait a second. Star on Broadway, plus
maybe
which,
not the latter.
I'll tell you the other thing. You're never growing. You're not going to be 6'2". I promise you that. But you could be a New York Times bestseller writer.
But it would take. It would first of all, I'd have to write a book, and,
Yeah,
and
there
then,
you
so
go.
that's another book. But anyway, there are things that can happen, but do I believe it will happen? I wrote last week that I strongly believe that it will not happen. That that the committee is not set up to make that happen. It's never been about that. That's my principal objection to the structure of the college football playoff. Is it's not designed for that. It's designed under the old belief system that a group of people, either on their computers or on the telephone, in the old days with the Associated Press or coaches polls, or now with this committee, can sit there and designate who are the absolute best teams. Do I think that it's a logical or reasonable thing to have a group of people say, okay, these are the people that are in, we want to add these people? I think that's fine. I mean, it's worked with the NCAA tournament forever. It works in golf. I mean, the Masters has, there's like 30 different ways, whatever, that you qualify automatically for the Masters. I think it's about 13 or 14 ways. But if you do these things, you're in the Masters. They can't stop you. But there's also room for the people at the Masters to say, hey, Phil Mickelson had a torn shoulder last year, and we want him in our tournament, so he's in. And that's okay. But it's not okay for there to be no way to know for certain that you're in. It's a ridiculous construct, and only college football has it, and only the college football intelligentsia seems to believe that it's not preposterous. I get into arguments with people who do what I do only in the college football sphere all the time. You can't have a true playoff without automatic qualification, without a defined path for entry. And so I began about 18 months ago to call it to point out that it's basically an invitational. You only get in if we say we want you. And that's not a true championship. They can call it whatever they want, but it's not a true championship. College football has yet to have that. It will if it expands to 8 or 12, and automatic entry is part of that process. But we're not there yet.
Well, that's why the 12 was so perfect. As you say, then it really would have been true because you would have had 6 champions. So that means there was at least one group of 5 in. Last year, if they did it, it would have been 2. And then you're still going to get all those Power Fives are going to get all 6 of the others. So schools like Notre Dame actually would increase their odds of getting in. I hope that is the route they go for the equality of college football. But I like the way you put it as an invitational. And if we just look at the way this is set up right now, I'm in agreement with you. I don't think Cincinnati gets in because Georgia and Alabama, if Georgia wins out and Alabama doesn't lose another game, which most likely will happen, probably both those teams will get into the playoff if Alabama beats Georgia in the championship game and it's close. Then you're going to get between Iowa and Ohio State and Michigan, you're going to get a Big Ten entree, and then most likely Oklahoma, if they win out, and there's a good chance they will, now that they've gotten past Texas, they're going to get in. So there's a bunch of different ways that most likely Cincinnati gets the raw end of the deal.
Yeah, and if you look at Oklahoma's schedule and performance, I mean, if you're going to do that game, it's not superior to Cincinnati's. I mean, the schedule is slightly superior once you get into the league. I mean, remember, the American has been a really good college football league for the better part of the last 5 years. It's not really this year. This is not a peak year. Tigers are struggling. They have been terrific in previous years.
Right.
Central Florida is struggling. They have been outstanding in recent years. It's not the league that it ordinarily has been. So that works, in that argument, that works against the Bearcats. But I honestly believe that if the Tigers were at or near the peak where they were, and Cincinnati were able to prevail, or Central Florida was at least as good as they were last year, the year before, not obviously at the 17-18 peak, but if they were in the mix, I think that they'd still find a way to argue against those teams because they're not Broadway brands.
Right.
That's the way it works.
Well, they play UCF this week, and Dylan Gabriel's not going to play, so that doesn't help them. The one thing that could help them And if we're going to look at variables, they're going to play SMU. Most likely SMU will still be ranked. That would be the third-ranked team that they played.
Right.
And so that would be helpful. But they're not looking for ways to help Cincinnati. I don't think.
Exactly.
As you just said, they're built the way they are built. I was really curious about this. You wrote a story about Duke and recruiting and how it's going to be just fine after Mike Krzyzewski leaves. But I was curious because you've been doing this for a long time, 20-something years, maybe longer.
Longer.
And you've always been a guy. You were one of the first before it was in vogue. There were a few people that were doing it, but you were one of the first that really went to the Peach Jams and looked at all these recruits. Tell me if they are and how much better a guy like Duran and Bates are than the average or the upper 10% of a guy from 20 years ago.
Honestly, I don't know that they are.
Really?
20 years ago, LeBron.
True.
I worry a little bit, and we'll have to see over the next few years. But I worry a little bit that it's been a while since we turned out a guy like that. Not LeBron level, but I don't know, like a KD or like an Anthony Davis. There haven't been a truckload of those guys. We've gotten a lot of really good players, but those transformational players that we used to do, every 5-6 years, those guys who are going to be all NBA for multiple years. I'm not sure that they're out there, but I certainly, I got a chance to see Duke practice yesterday. I saw Paulo Banchero. If everything goes right for him, he has those kinds of goods. Amani has those kinds of goods. Sometimes the way the process works now, it can go just good enough, and then you become, a guy who makes all-star games, plays on bad teams. If you have a good attitude, things can work out nicely for you. If you have a Ben Simmons attitude, you can have more drama than playoff victories. We haven't had a ton of those types of players that are just absolutely game changers go through. And like I said, it wasn't like we had a LeBron every year or anything, but every 4 or 5 years there'd be somebody like that. And we're not, and I'm not sure that it's the development process is working in the same way to turn out a guy like that. Is it the constant movement from school to school, from program to program? Is it not staying in development long enough? I don't know, but I do know that you look at the All NBA team, and there's a lot of guys who came out of high school in the 00s, and not as many that came out of an American high school in the 10s. You see guys like Luka. And players like that,
not developed here, though.
That's my point. Yeah. We're not doing that at this point, at least not, and that's why I hope for Banchero that he's that good and Amani that he's that good. I hope that because I think it's great for the game when the U.S. is developing players like that.
I wonder, and you got about 20 seconds here, if some of that is just because we hype it so much more now that these guys, we expect them to be those kinds of guys.
I don't want to blame it on us because LeBron survived the greatest hype onslaught of any high school basketball prospect ever. And I went and saw him at the ABCD camp before his junior year in high school, and I compared it to like what my sisters saw when they were seeing the Beatles. And if anything, I undersold him. So guys have withstood that before. I think it more comes down to being held to the standard of you have to be this great in order to get these things that you desire. And there's so much reward at the B+ level.
Yeah, no doubt.
The A+ level, do you have the drive to get there?
Good points. As always, my friend. Thank you much. We'll do it again next week.
That sounds great, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. And that is it for us. We've got to thank Jeff Moore and Mike DeCourcy. Tomorrow, could have a surprise at the top of the show. Tomorrow is Memphis Madness. It'll begin at 7 o'clock. It'll be our first chance to see Bates and Duran and Minot and Camden and all these new guys. I can't wait to see Quinones because I hear he got a Walt Frazier kind of beard now, which, is right up my alley. So that'll do it for us. For Jay Morgan and myself, see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.